Hello, novel writing. So, Snowpocalypse came, and we are not having class tomorrow on Tuesday. So, it's Monday evening right now while I'm going to make this video so that we can stay caught up. I'm going to run us through the week 3 information, and then we will see if we are in the classroom together on Thursday or not. I really don't know at this point in time what's going to happen because anything with the temperatures the way they're going to be that does melt in the sun during the day is just refreezing at night. So we shall see. I haven't been out. My husband's been out, but I don't so much want to go out there. But it's all fine. It's all fine. So right now I'm going to go ahead and share the screen and we'll make our way through this information. And I won't make it last too terribly long because I know you're probably not going to want to watch a really long video lecture. But here we are. This week is all about characters. Okay. So we're going to begin with an article from Chuck Wendig, of course. I love Chuck. We've discussed that. He's got great information to share with us. And that's where I want to begin today. So we'll just dive right in. The first one is main things that your characters need. Number one, a personality. That seems rather obvious, sure. In a way, it's like saying, what makes a really good tree is that it has an essential treeness. But just the same, it bears mentioning because some characters read like cardboard. They're like white crayon on white paper. Sure, the character runs around and they do stuff and say stuff, but none of it has anything to do with character and has everything to do with plot. As if the characters are just another mechanism to get to the next action sequence, the next plot point, the next fraza waza waza buzza, whatever. The point is, your character needs a personality, and the rest of the list should help you get there. Personality is essential. I know Stephen King, and you'll read this in the On Writing book, or maybe I encountered this in one of the many video interviews that I've watched of him, but he spends the first few chapters just building his characters. The whole intent is for you to get acquainted with the characters and for you, the reader, to begin to care about the characters, and character tells the story. So if your character is flat and dull, has no personality, and it's supposed to be a main character, the story isn't going to go very far. So this is extremely important that number one, your character has a personality. Number two, the character. I love this. This is funny. Hold on. We got to go back to that. I need to move this so I can see. How about that? There we go. The character should run an advertising agency, is handed a note. I mean, the character should belong to the FBI and gets another note. My goodness with the notes, people. But fine, yes, okay, I get it now. Agency means that the character is active, not passive. The character makes decisions and is attempting to control her own destiny as an independent operator within the story. She is not a leaf in the stream, but rather the rock that breaks the river. Receives one more note. Oh, thank you. What a wonderful note. I do agree my beard is sexy. Yes, I know. So rich, so full, so shiny. I oil it with secretions from squeezed ermine scent glands, which also lends that musky zing that sort of crawls up your nose, flicks beard sweat at you. Oh, Chuck. Your character needs agency. Your character needs to be able to make decisions. I love that he said she's not a leaf in the stream, but the rock that breaks the river. The plot is going to happen around the character. The character is your force. The character is the one wading through the river, running against the wind. Whatever is happening around, you have your character with a personality reacting to it. Motivation, number 3. Characters want things, they need things. They're motivated by these desires and requirements, and they spend an entire story trying to fulfill them. That's one of the base level components of a story. A character acts in service to his motivations, but obstacles, frequently other characters, stand in his way. We need to know what impels a character. What are her motives? If we don't know or can't parse those motivations, her role in the story is alien to us. What's motivating the character? What's pushing them forward? What is the end that they're trying to seek? We have to know these things as readers, or the story's going to fall flat. Characters need a goal, they need motivation. Number four, fear. Hmm. Everyone's afraid of something: death, taxes, bees, dogs, love, carnival workers, ocelots. I'm afraid of the number 34 in the color puce. Characters suffer from their own personal fears relevant to the story at hand. Characters without fear are basically robots who use their pneumatic doom claws to puncture any sense of engagement and belief we have in the story you've created. The great thing about being a storyteller isn't just giving characters fear, it's ensuring that their fears will arise and be present in the tale at hand. You shall be cruel. This cruelty shall be great fun and a veritable giggle fest because storytellers are arseholes. Can I say that? I don't think I can say that. I'm certainly not going to say what he said. Cruelty. Wow. Characters need fear, and we need to put them in situations where they're afraid. The reality of life as human beings is we all have fear. We all face things that scare us, and so should our characters. To make them authentic, to make them real, they also need to feel fear. And maybe that fear is only something that the reader knows because it comes through internal dialogue. Maybe it's something that the character shares on the side with a close friend only. And that close friend is the only one who knows what the fear is. And so that close friend tries to help out whenever they can to ensure that the character's able to accomplish what his motivation is. In my introduction to literature class, there's an entire chapter on, or an entire chapter in our book called Don't Stand Next to the Hero. And that what I was just setting up there made me think of that because the best friends of heroes tend to, oh, I don't know, die, suffer greatly. But sometimes they're the ones, the only ones who know what the main character is afraid of. And so our characters need to have fear, right? Even if it's something that only you, the writer, know, but you have to give it to them in their internal dialogue so the reader can be a part of that. They need to know that this is a real person. Internal conflict. I'm in love with Steve, but I also love my job as a diplomat to the raccoon people of Hollow Earth. But Steve is allergic to raccoons. But I may be the only person who can stop the raccoon people from invading Canada. What shall I do? Great characters suffer from internal conflict. They don't know what they want or how to get all the things they want. Position your characters between the Scylla and the Charybdis of hard choices, choices that compete with one another. Giving characters these emotional, intellectual, soul testing conundrums is sweet meat for the audience. The meat of conflict, the meat of drama. Further, it allows us to relate to these characters as we all have to make hard choices and gives us a reason to keep reading because we want to know the characters' choices in the face of these inner conflicts. Part of one of the reasons why we as readers read is to escape our actual lives, right? We get caught up in the world of the characters and we want to know why the character's motivated to do this and what is the conflict that the character is facing and how does the character think that they'll handle that conflict? Maybe I can handle the conflict that way too. Oh, the character's afraid of that thing as well, so maybe I can handle it the same way that the character. See, our readers learn from us and how we build our characters. And I apologize, I keep touching my nose. I've been having like a massive allergy attack today. I don't know what it is. I'm wondering if it's the kitty litter because it's the only thing that's changed in the last few days. And this morning when I went to change it, I sneeze, 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 sneeze. And I've been sneezing all day. But taken two Sudafeds and some Dayquil, and I think those are starting to wear off because now my nose is just, I feel like I'm gonna scratch it off my face. You know what would be fun? Have something like that happen to one of your characters. Random out of the blue, unexpected. Your reader's gonna go, "What?" But it's interesting because it's real. It's part of life. We have random things that itch us or that make us sneeze incessantly. Your character walks through a patch of pollen and all of a sudden they have a sneezing fit. And lo and behold, some young man comes by that they've never met before and turns out to be the love of their life. I don't know. Can throw odd circumstances at people. I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but this one in particular is on inner conflict. So we all have inner conflict. Every single one of us, we have things inside that we have arguments with ourselves about. We're not exactly sure how we feel about something. So should your characters have those same types of inner conflicts. They should be wanting to go to the store, but afraid to go to the store because of XYZ. But I need to. I know I need to go because this person will probably be there and I need to see that person because PDQ, right? But if I don't go, like conflict, or they're faced with a situation where it's save humanity or save the love of your life. And you've got this heartbreak going on inside of you. Like, I don't know what situation you're going to put your character in, but they need internal conflict. External conflict. Hey, external conflict is pretty cool too. If the character is plagued by an old war wound, a damaged spaceship, a mysterious old villain who shows up to perform surgical karate on the character, all good. Doubly good if the external conflict matches or speaks to the internal conflict in some way. Say, for instance, an author who is addicted to slathering his beard with illicit ermine scent glands is also pursued by a very angry ermine scent gland dealer named Vito, who would apparently like his money. Just an example with no basis in reality. Runs. So we need external conflict. Things need to happen. They happen to us. So they need to happen to your characters too, right? External conflict, things that we have to face, obstacles we have to bypass, step over, go under, whatever it is that we need to do to get it out of the way so that we can keep going towards what motivates us. Same exact thing, real life and story. Number 7, they need connections to other characters. That lone wolf Ronin without a clan stuff gets tiresome pretty quick. Characters need connections to other characters. These don't need to be desired connections. They can be connections that the character is actively trying to deny, but they need to be there. They help make the character who she is and continue to push and pull on her as the story unfolds. Friends, family, acquaintances, work buddies, foes, neighbors, drug dealers, enslaved Pokemon, sentient snow globes, sex androids, microscopic beard civilizations, you know, the usual. Characters need other characters. I'm watching a show right now on the Acorn app. I love the Acorn app. It's like British, Irish, New Zealand, all these other countries that are so polite. It's their crime dramas, and I love it. It's not all their crime dramas. There, many of these are made specifically for Acorn. And currently, I'm watching one called My Life is Murder, and it is produced and starred in by Lucy Lawless. And what was she before? Like years ago, she was what, Shira or something like that. Lady Hercules. I don't remember what the name of the character was, but so now she's a retired police detective, and a current police detective keeps bringing her cases to help him with. And then there's a young girl working at the police station who is kind of like her sidekick. But she doesn't want a sidekick because I'm not doing this officially, right? Even though she keeps taking cases. And so the girl shows up at her house and she shuts the door in her face. She's like, no. And then the girl's calling her and please, I want to help you. And she's all, no. But then after the girl finally goes away, then she comes across some information that she needs and she calls the girl and she's all, hey, I have this for you to do. It's this very thing here. She's trying to feel like and say, I don't need anyone because she just lost her husband. She's trying to hole up in her house and just cook bread all the time and everybody leave me alone. But she's so drawn to solving crime that every time her police detective friend calls her to come meet him, she ends up going. She doesn't want to, but she ends up going, right? Like she has this internal conflict. See, there that is. And she ends up going. And then he'll like lay out two or three different cases and let her pick which one she wants. This last episode, he asked her to go sightseeing with him, and they got like stuck in some elevator that goes up and back down, and it's a 30-minute ordeal. And so she realizes that he's trapped her for 30 minutes to talk about cases. Maybe it's not funny to you, it's funny to me. But it's exactly what we're talking about here is that connection to other characters. It could be characters that they embrace, that they wholly want on their team, but it can also be people that you try to push away. That's still connection. And in the case of the character I'm watching, she pushes these people away, but she needs them desperately. And you know, as the watcher, that she needs them. She's just pushing back because she wants to be this strong person. I don't need anyone, right? But that's a flaw. That's a hero flaw, a character flaw. And so that's something to keep in mind for a little bit later down the road here. Number 8. Ooh, can't read all of that because I've got, how do I get rid of this thing at the top here? I know you guys don't know what I'm talking about because I don't think you can see it. I don't know what that says. And I can't get this to go away. Here. Oh, I see. I'll just move it. Oh, here about. Let's put it over here. Now y'all are really confused because you really seriously, I don't think you can see what I'm seeing. Oh, it won't go to the side like it used to. Okay, well, anyway, I'll just move it. Ready? Number 1, they need connections to us, the audience. Number 1, that's a number 8. Number 8, we respond well to those characters who contain a little bit of us. We want to relate to them. The best characters are a broken mirror. We want to see ourselves reflected back, if in a distorted, unexpected way. We want to connect with them using that weird empathetic psychic tendon where we tie together our shared traits or universal life experiences, like we're those humanoid blue goat cat mother fishers from Avatar. Young adult fiction is written with teenage protagonists experiencing teenage protagonist problems because it's written for that audience. And it's why adults can still read those books comfortably because adults remember being a teenager. The reader wants a new story, but she wants an old story too, her own. That made me emotional. Not because of what I read there, the Avatar thing, I could care less. But there's all this hype right now about Wuthering Heights, and Wuthering Heights is my favorite story. And to see the trailer was emotional for me. I relate to them. My life was a reflection of that story for so long, and I wonder if I created that. There's a definite connection there between Kathy and me. Definite. So now that I've seen the trailer, I'm rethinking my stance on not watching the movie. But I'm also wondering if it's a good idea because that story and that part of my life that imitated the story, those things are over now. And I don't know that I want to dredge any of that back up. But here's the thing. It's because it connected to me in 7th grade, mind you, because it connected to me that it still has, at the age of 53, 40 some years later, still has a hold on me. That's a well-written set of characters. Emily Bronte, though she lived out on the moors in a parsonage with her sisters and her father, somehow knew the human soul enough to write characters that were haunting. She somehow knew how to write a character that connected to the needs and the wants and the desires that go unspoken, that stay hidden deep inside of humanity. She certainly did touch on that. The characters need connections to us. We need to ensure that they have human, authentic traits, that they are raw, that they are real. Readers will connect, readers will keep reading. Oh, what did I do? It doesn't want to change slides. Let's go down here and just manually do it. How about that? Nuance and complexity. Stuffy one-note characters are a Taco Bell product, manufactured, unfrozen, gray meat, red sauce, in a proportion somewhat maybe kind of tortilla. They're good for a quick bite and a hard purge. Remember, you do not buy Taco Bell, you rent Taco Bell and then you return it to the ecosystem with a couple of flushes. Great characters are a nuanced meal, from an aperitif to the amuse-bouche to the first and second course, all the way through to the monkey course and the molecular gastronomy course, to coffee, dessert, and then ritual suicide. Each bite has complexity. Like sipping a fine wine or a great cup of coffee, you taste things that aren't expected, that go beyond the word coffee or wine. I taste figs in fireplace ash, and a little after hint of the tears from a grief-struck slow loris. A good character is complex because that means they are, like, gasp, real people. Real people who are not easily summed up or predicted. Real people with layers and surprises, and who are all a little bit good and a little bit bad and a whole lot of interesting. That one was fun. I like that. Nuance and complexity. Your characters can't be flat. Your hero can't just be good all the time. There's got to be something going on inside of him that's not good. Pride, for instance. Have him struggle with that. Maybe every time he passes a mirror, he stops to check himself out, and people around him that know him well are like, oh, but the whole world loves the guy. But the people that know him best are like, dude, you don't even know. Like, no, right? You know people like that. See, that's a real people kind of thing. That's like high school, right? Peer pressured era. You got your jock, right? And he's like Mr. Handsome America guy. And everybody's like, ooh. But then the people that are closest to him, especially like his mom, are going to be like, dude, can't wash his own underwear. And I'm tired of trying to get the stains out. Now, sorry to be graphic, but at the same time, the best things for us to do in a story is to insert things that might be a tad bit unexpected, perhaps a little graphic. Things that make the reader go, what? That's real life. You ever known somebody that they walk past and you can smell their socks? I lived with one of those. I have to keep that door shut because I'm going to fall over if I don't. Those are the kinds of things we can write into characters, but we need characters who are complex. Like, they seem to always have it together, but inside they're falling apart. And only you, the reader, may be the one that knows that. Good stuff. And give your reader little bites at a time. Make them begin to question. It's like in The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. You start out, you think this girl's got it all together. But as the story goes on and the story progresses, you realize, this is not okay. Something's going on here. And then at the end of it, you're like, okay, all right, I'm out. Like, chick's crazy. Or you're feeling like madcap sad for her. It just depends on who you are. But Characters need nuance and complexity. Wow, why does that not want to click? There we go. Strengths to be good at something. Characters who have absolutely zero mad skills are dull as a sack of frozen poached hippo meat. We like to read about characters who are good at something. I'm the best darn werewolf veterinarian you ever did see. You need a speech pathologist for velociraptors, then you need me. I'm a cop who is also a robot, and they call me Officer Bot. Wait, that doesn't sound cool. You want characters who are capable or even exceptional. Sherlock isn't a mediocre detective. Buffy isn't just some half ass vampire puncher. She's the gosh darn slayer. Ranger Rick isn't just some fishing raccoon man. This doesn't have to be limited to actual skills or talents. A character's strength can be internal, it can be intellectual or emotional, or it can be that she can knock a dude's head off his shoulders with one fast punch. So your characters, not all of them, but one or two, perhaps five, I don't know. Somebody in there's got to have some mad skills, something that we're rooting for, right? It's mad skills. Really good at something like the football player with the stinky feet. Like you give him a ball, man, nobody's going to stop him. He's going to make his way to the touchdown. Like it's going to happen. You count on it. But don't walk past his bedroom or you're going to fall over. Like it stinks. And his mama's not a fan. All the fans at school though are like, "Wah!" See that kind of thing. Characters also need flaws. They need to be bad at something. They got to have stinky socks. Sherlock is an amazing detective and a terrible human. He's a drug addict. He's in recovery, trying to be, but he slips, messes up. But he's probably the most brilliant detective ever. But the police force kind of keeps him on the side because we don't really want anybody knowing that you're helping us, even though he solves all their crimes. It's crazy. I love Sherlock. Sherlock's one of my favorite characters of all time. Buffy's a bona fide badass, but she's also a glib, impulsive teenage girl. Ranger Rick the raccoon can ranger like a mother fisher, but he's also got a bad addiction to meow meow and a penchant for losing all his ranger paycheck at the Indian casino. Characters can be good at things, but they can't be too good. You need balance. If they're the best at something, they should also be the worst at something. Conflict lives here. The space between Sherlock being the best detective and the worst human is so taut with tension, the potential story might snap and take out someone's eye. Plus, on a practical level, someone who is good at everything and bad at nothing is boring and unbelievable. Nobody's like that. No one. We sometimes idolize people, especially like celebrities, but trust me, they're real people too. They have the same kind of issues when they got the flu that you do. Again, too graphic? Maybe. I don't know. Your mind went there. I didn't say it. So they've got to be flawed. Your characters can't be good at everything. It's just not practical because that's not human. And so when we're creating characters, you need to keep that in mind. All right. The Code of the West. Now, I found this in the intro to literature class textbook that I'm using. It's actually a small book, and it's by Thomas Foster, and it's called How to Read Literature Like a Professor. And so I came across this line, and I thought, I have to share this with my novel writing class because it's just too phenomenal not to. But the Code of the West, according to Thomas Foster. Now, the only reason to give a character a serious hangup is to give him the chance to get over it. He may fail, but he gets the chance. It's the Code of the West. How cool is that? They've got to get a chance to get over it, whatever this flaw is, whatever this internal or external conflict is, whatever is weighing them down, the problem that's in the way. They need a chance to get over it. Sometimes they do, Sometimes they don't, but they deserve the chance. Mm, good stuff. Love that. So anyway, I felt like that had to go with a picture of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. Yes, I know that's Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer, but in my head and my heart, they are Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. So, ooh, I saw a real picture of Doc Holliday today, and I was like, no, no, that's not him. So, number 12, characters need a voice. I don't mean this in a literal sense, no deaf mutes allowed. I mean that your character has to sound like your character, a unique voice, a combination of how she speaks and what she says when she does. When you write her dialogue, we should have no doubt who is speaking, even if the dialogue tags were eaten by some kind of bibliovore creature. What kinds of things does she say? Why does she say them? What does she sound like? Does her way of speaking reflect where she grew up or reflect her trying to get away from where she grew up? Is her mother's voice in there somewhere? Her father's? Is she brash and bold or hesitant, reserved? How do all these things reflect who she actually is? Mm. Is this something you've thought about before? How does your character sound? Dialect, accent, tension in the voice, fear in the voice, a particular pattern of speaking? Does your character have a stutter? Fun things that we can think about. We need to give to our characters, not all of them, right? But well, maybe all of the characters need to have a specific pattern and way of speaking so that the reader understands who it is. But at the same time, we don't want to like be overwhelming completely to our reader. So there's balance in there. But it's balance that's fun to play with because we need our characters to be authentic people. I mean, they're made up people, but you can craft them so well that they become real, not only to you, because they will become real to you, but to your readers as well. I can't tell you how many times I've had my characters talk to me. Mind you, it's all up here, but they talk to me because I build them, I craft them. I spend time putting characters together before I ever begin writing about them. Pages of character information, knowing what their hobbies are, knowing what their likes and dislikes, what kind of pizza do they, all kinds of characteristics that I want to know about the character so that I can write that character well. It's a fun idea. Number 13, they need a look. Put me in the camp where characters should look like someone or something. Some writing advice suggests that an author let her characters act as physical ciphers. Zero description so that, geez, I don't know, we can all imprint upon them or imagine them as whoever we want them to be. Fish that stuff, George. I'm not saying we need to hear about every chipped fingernail, eyelash, or skin tag, but pick a few stark details and make the character stand out. And let those details reveal to us something about the character, too. The perfect suit, but the dirty shoes. The hair buzzed so flat that you could land a chopper on top of it. The rim of blood under his nails. Whatever. What's the character's look, and what can it tell us about him? And I may have already told you the story. I don't know that I have. I think I mentioned it in comp class this semester so far, but my character Henry in the book For Love of Words, which isn't currently published right now, um, I patterned him in my head. He's Jeremy Irons, the actor. I know this because I created the character. This is who he is, right? But in the book, I only gave so much description because you should only give so much description so that the reader can fill in the blanks with their own imagination. You want to give just enough description. So one day I'm watching Law and Order, and my mom's in the kitchen, and I'm in the bedroom watching Law and Order, and Jeremy Irons was one of the characters on the episode, and I'm yelling for my mom, Mom, Mom. She comes in my room. She's like, What? And I said, Mom, that's Henry. And she looked at the TV, and you know what she said? She said, That's not Henry. That's not what he looks like. I was like, No, Mom, that literally is Henry. And she said, no, that's not him. I was like, okay. Can't argue with her imagination, but we have to be able to give the character enough that the reader fills in the blanks and they can take it from there. If you don't give them anything, man, they're just all over the place trying to, make up something. They're making themselves the character. The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin is almost like that. We almost have barely zero description of the characters in that piece. We know that um, the main character, Louise, we know that she's young and fair and that she has slender hands and that she has a heart condition. That's all we know about her physical appearance. So the rest of it, you're filling in on your own. We have no idea what her sister Josephine looks like. We have no idea what Richards looks like. And we don't know what Brentley Mallard looks like. Mm-mm. But it's a short story. And Kate didn't find those descriptions necessary. We're in a novel writing class. We're doing lengthy writing. We're not just making a quick emotional point that's going to shock people into changing society, which is what Kate accomplished. So we need to give some details because these characters are going to stick around for a while with the reader, and we need to give them something to build on. Number 14, characters need emotion. Let me move this again. A character without emotion is a soulless automaton. They don't need to reveal those emotions to the world around them, but they should reveal them to you as author and to the reader as well. Characters feel things. They feel sorrow and shame and bliss. They feel itchy and hungry and confused and so angry they could crumple a vending machine like it's a can of soda. They run the gamut like, oh, I don't know, real people. And the thing is, you can use these emotional responses to highlight for us who the characters are. They encounter something that should make them happy, but it makes them sad instead. That's a telling moment for the character. Why does this thing that would make everyone else happy make him want to cry and punch a cabinet instead? Characters need to feel things. Now, my suggestion to you from this point forward is as you're going about your regular everyday life, pay attention to your emotions. When you feel strong emotions or when you're bored, write it down. Write every aspect of it that you can think of. Touch on all the senses. When you're bored, describe that feeling. Describe what you look at. Describe how many times you count the legs on the fly. All of these authentic emotions that you have, notice them, capture them, write them in a notebook, use them for your characters. Give these characters authentic emotions, and who better to draw them from but a real living human being who feels all of the things. And every one of us does. Most of them we don't talk about out loud, which gives us a great space to go ahead and write things that nobody else does. To be willing to have your character think something shocking. Every one of us has thought something shocking. Are you brave enough to let your character so that it's out loud on paper? Kind of dare you to, right? Kind of dare you to do that. Number 5 or 15, that's 15. Characters need mysteries. Questions drive narrative. We continue reading sometimes just to answer questions. Who killed Mrs. Pennytickle? Who stole Shinshishu of Darkness? And for what nefarious purpose? Okay, let me read that again. Who stole the Shizu of Darkness and for what nefarious purpose? What happens next? The audience is driven in part by the need to answer mysteries. The thing is, the audience and the characters have a kind of narrative quantum entanglement. The same things that draw us through the story are the same things that urge a character forward too. We want to solve the murder the same as the cantankerous detective does. Give the characters questions that are unanswered, variables in her equation that she is driven to complete. So characters need mysteries. We all want to solve them. We want to figure them out. So we have to allow the character to have those. Even if it's a small thing, like who ate the last of the ice cream without asking permission? Right? Like you could go on a whole vendetta trying to figure that one out, or maybe that's just me. Kind of the food Nazi at my house, and I'm trying to work on containing that because I don't live in a house of 8 people anymore, so I probably can let that go. Maybe. Number 16, they need characters need secrets. It goes the other way too. Just as a character has questions, he also has answers. Answers that he never wants to share with anyone. Answers that would be otherwise known as secrets. Historic or heroic, heroic secrets, dark secrets, sexy secrets, weird secrets, underpants secrets. The character knows things that he doesn't want revealed, creating complexity for the character and tension for the reader. You're hoping, you're pushing for, you don't want him to get found out. You know what his secret is, and it's gotta stay hidden because you know what the repercussions could be because he's thought about them and you've read his thoughts. Give your character secrets. It adds to those mysteries. 17, the ability to surprise. The moment a character loses the ability to surprise us, they might as well be a dead body floating down a slow moving river. That's not to say a character should be unpredictable on every page. I killed a man. Now I'm starting a churro shop. Now I own a parrot. Now I'm going to eat the parrot and jump into this howling chasm and die. Eee! But a character should always be able to still do something that makes us double take and pump our fists in triumph or drop our jaws in shock. And it's not just about action either. It's about showing surprising depths of emotion or cleverness or capability. It's about the character being so much more than what we expect, a secret forest hidden beneath the cloud cover. The character needs to be able to surprise the reader through the entire story. Unpredictable, just like we are. Do you ever surprise yourself? Or is that just me? I know I do. Sometimes I don't know what is happening with my brain or my body, right? 53, things are going a little wonky. Things don't go like they always have. And I go, wait a minute, what's happening here? I'm still the same person. We need that ability to surprise. Where you turn the page and you go, what did she just say? Where did that come from? Right? It's an internal thought. It's been building and building and building. And you can add to that. 18, consistency. And yet at the same time, those surprises shouldn't also come out of left field either. Think of it like the reveal of a murderer in a murder mystery story. You want that murder to be revealed in a way where the story outsmarted you, and yet it still makes sense, right? You don't want it to be, oh, and the murderer was actually Dr. Poiter Dongwick, the pharmacologist who you never met or heard of and are just now meeting and is basically the narrative equivalent of Rock Falls, Everybody Dies. Characters are that way too. When they reveal something about themselves or surprise us, it should be a thing that has us nodding our head, not scratching it like a confused chimp. We should be saying, wow, not what? All right. Hopefully that one makes sense. I think it's pretty funny. I love that when you're watching a mystery or you're reading a mystery and you want to figure out who the murderer is and you think you've got it figured out and you get to the end and you turn the page and you're like, "Ah, no!" And somebody that you didn't want it to be, and but there's really no other way it could have been, and you know that, but you're still mad at the author. Yeah, that's fun stuff, right? That's the stuff that makes us remember the story. So we need to be consistent in the surprises that we're giving, make sure that they aren't completely coming out of the blue, that they're consistent with who the character is. Number 19, small quirks. This is probably one of my absolute hands down favorites. I'm not saying every character needs to be a variant of Zooey Deschanel. Besides, she is the quirkiest little quirk that ever did quirk, and you cannot beat her at her own game. She eats tomato soup in the rain with four baby goats all named Oliver. Whatever. Quirks can be an amateurish way of giving your character depth, in part because it's artifice that doesn't create any depth at all. Still, while quirks are no substitute for actual character traits, they are useful in small doses when A, letting the character stand out in our mind, and B, lending some depth of character through a seemingly shallow expression. A character who always fidgets with, say, a coin or a pin or a pair of dice may seem like a one off blah blah detail, but later it can be revealed that this single, simple act is bound up to some tragic event in the character's life. My mother was killed by a pair of dice. Okay, maybe not that, but you get the idea. Give your character a quirk, something unusual that they do, like a tick that they do. Last semester, some of my students told me that while I'm giving in-person lectures, and now you guys are all going to watch for this, that I do this when I make a point. Like, yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea. Now I'm going to be working on that. But another thing that I do, and I've picked this up from one of my sons, is I'm constantly going, bet. Right? Have you ever encountered someone who says the same phrase continually? And you're sitting there going, oh my God, why do you say that? I have a friend, I have a good friend, and bless his heart, I don't think he has any clue that he does this. But when you're talking to him or he's given a talk in a class, he'll be, he constantly says, you get the idea. And then he'll talk for a little while longer and he'll go, you get the idea. And then he'll talk some more. You get the idea. And I'm at a point now where all I want to do is not listen to anything else he's saying. I just want to track how many times he says you get the idea. Because it's a quirk. It's funny, but it also can be annoying, right? I had a friend in high school who flipped a pen around his fingers. He could make it loop around his fingers and he would just loop it. And he wasn't even paying attention to the fact that he was doing it. He did it at school, he did it at church, and he would constantly be looping that pen around his fingers. And I'm like mesmerized by it. Like, how the heck? What are you doing? I don't know how. Because then I would try and it would fall, like I can't do that. It's crazy, but giving your character a quirk, something unusual, something ticky, something that is completely unique to that person. And if you really stop and sort of pay attention, which is what the whole Tell Me About Your Uncle exercise was about, was digging into the complexities and the unique qualities that many people have. We start paying attention, you begin to see things. When you start to really like look at people and understand their characteristics, everyone becomes immensely interesting because we're so different. And some of us are quirky. Some of us are out there in the rain with Zooey Deschanel eating tomato soup with goats all named Oliver. That cracked me up. But anyway, I could sit and harp on quirks forever. I love quirks. I think characters should have them because that adds a layer of uniqueness. It sets them apart from everyone else and gives them an added layer of authenticity because every one of us thinks ourselves to be weird in some way. So let your character be a little weird in some way. 20 history, they need history, right? They can't just have come out of the complete blue. They have to have backstory. He says your character didn't just come karate punching her way out of some storytelling womb. She wasn't born pale and featureless like a grub, only to grow her wings and limbs halfway through the tail. The character's been around. Whether she's 17 or 70, she has a history. She has life, stories, things that happened to her and things that she did. First kiss, first breakup, first sexual experience, first drunk, first hangover, first AA meeting, first BDSM. Oh my, first space flight. That time Billy Grossbeak tried to grab her and she broke his nose. The other time she got fired from her coffeehouse counter monkey job for spitting in some chode's caramel macchiato. That time she did the thing with the girl at the place. What we see of a character in a story is just the tippy top of the iceberg, just a bit poking out of the water while the rest is the body remains submerged. Don't let your characters be tabula rasa, some blank slate devoid of history. Characters need to have history, and the trick to this is, like I said a few minutes ago, is you build them before you start writing them. Have a notebook where you have just gotten to know this person and write out all these amazing characters, where they come from, like all these different qualities, their quirks, their flaws, their strengths, all of these things. Who were their best friends? What kind of relationship with their parents did they have? Did they go to church? Get to know your character so that those aspects will naturally weave into the story once you start telling it. In A Kiss in the Rain, my character Adeline, she's 86 at the onset of the book. But through the telling of the story, we learn about her as a young woman. We experience her younger days with her. And she becomes this larger than life character who was a, a dancer on the stage. You know, during the days of Broadway, she sang, she danced, a little bit of acting wrapped in there, and she was beloved by people all over. And she, very much in Wuthering Heights fashion, which isn't that interesting that that would worm its way into a story I would tell, would be, and that's something I could bring up with my introduction to literature class. But she has a man that she loves, that he's the janitor at the theater. And that's not good enough for her. She loves him desperately, wants him, needs him. But her pride and her desire for physical success and money wins out, and she marries a senator or a banker. She marries a banker, and then she's miserable. Down the road, her banker ends up dying, and now she's an 86-year-old woman, and that janitor's still around, and he becomes her handyman. And so the tension's still there between them. And I love that part of the story. Like, do they, don't they? They're so old. Can they? Mm. Gonna stop there. They need history. I love telling that scene where they're stuck in the underground tunnel together when the tunnel collapses. I'll stop right there. 21. What is 21? I don't want to tell you any more about that story right now. The right name. This may seem a shallow point, but boy, does a character's name matter. You don't just pick it out of a hat. It has to be the right name. In the same way that you want the right name for a child or a dog or that mole on your inner thigh. Mine is Benedict Arnold. Like Bob Stevens is not the name of a steampunk secret agent. Miss Permelia Gracefeather is not the name of a motel maid from Tucson. You got to find the right name. And also of importance, a name that doesn't sound like the name of another character in your book. You don't want readers confused, nor do you want them conjuring a character from a whole other book or movie when reading yours. Character names need to be unique from one another within the story and from other stories. You want them to have their own identity. Okay, that's important. And I have a lot more I could say there. One of the things that I want to do if we're together on Thursday, one of the things we're going to do is go over and we're going to play with the Tell Me About Your Uncle exercise. And one of the things I want you all to do with each other is to come up with names for the characters that you collected. Such a fun exercise because most all of us are going to come up with different names, but then we could like vote on them. I think that would be amazing and see what we come up with together. 22, room to grow. Characters grow and change. Okay, fine. Not all of them do. And in certain modes of storytelling, a stagnant, flatlining character arc is sadly a feature and not a bug. But just the same, the most interesting characters are the ones who at least have the capability of change, who are part of the unfulfilled arc that is seen but keenly felt. Readers want to go on that journey with the character. They want to go along for the ride, breakups and marriages and babies and revenge and redemption and resurrection. Some animals grow only as big as their cages. So give your character room to move around. Yeah. Give them scope. Envision for them an incomplete arc. Give your characters room to grow, or cage them up and make them explosive. That could be an interesting story too, but give them room to grow. Let them wrestle with their identity. Let them have depth. Let their souls be expressive. Number 23, livability. I'm fond of saying that what matters about a character isn't that we like them, but that we can live with them. Meaning, if we're going to be hunkering down with that character for 400 pages of a book, or 2 hours of a movie, or a year's worth of comic books, that character has to be someone we are willing and able to spend time with. They don't have to be our pal. We're not asking them for a ride to the airport or help moving into our new apartment. They have to be someone we can and want to spend our time with in the narrative sense. And how do you accomplish this? Well, gravity. You do this by giving them gravity, making them as big and as interesting as they can be so they draw us to them, like moths to the flame, like meteors to the earth, like cat hair to a new sweater. The greatest crime you can commit against your character and your reader is to make them boring. What do your characters need the most? They need you. A good character needs you. You're the champion here. You're the mother fishing engine of creation that will bring this character to life with the eye-watering, boozy muse breath of your drunken imagination. You are a very special ingredient indeed, young captain. See, the idea goes that no story is original, and maybe that translates to character too. But you are an original, and the way you do things, the way you arrange old elements of story and character, is something wholly your own, provided you let yourself off the leash, provided you're willing to smear your guts all over the page. You can bring something fishing amazing to every character you write, yourself. The character doesn't exist without you. You are the puppeteer. You are parent and deity. So go ahead, create. Give them life, give them soul, give them character, and then kick their ass. Thanks, Chuck. Right? So that was a great article. I really enjoyed that. I hope that you all gained some good information there. Your characters cannot be flat. They need things, they want things, they have personalities, they have flaws. All of these things are essential. Give them quirks. Every time they eat spaghetti, they put ranch dressing on it, and it makes you crazy, right? Or they found out that Worcestershire sauce is made of anchovies, and now they won't eat it. And they complain about it incessantly, and it's driving you crazy because you don't understand why it's so important to tell everyone around that you come near that W sauce is made of anchovies and no one should eat that. And I'm so grossed out. And you just want to say, hey, Bertha, stop talking about it, right? Anyway, I digress. Characters need you to understand the difference between a novel and a short story, too. Please understand that a short story is anything between 0 and 49,999 words. That means we have some pretty long short stories out there that qualify as short stories. Now, generally, if you're going to be writing short fiction and submitting them to magazines and contests and things of that nature, they're going to want like a 5,000 word limit or a 2,500 word limit. Rarely are you going to come across those situations where they're like, give me 35,000 words. Just know up to that number, it's still considered a short story. If it's 50,000 to 79,999, that is a novella. That is considered a baby novel, if you will. So that is a novella. And a novel is anything that is 80,000 plus words. You have to hit the 80,000 mark in order for it to be considered a novel. Now, what's interesting here is You don't want to just write 80,000 words and then be like, whew, I made it, I'm there. And then you start editing. Because what's going to end up happening is you're going to be down to 65,000 and you go, oh crap. You should always way overwrite what you need. Overwrite, because cutting out dead wood is part of the process. Initially, we can't help it when we are writing a rough draft. We will, no matter what kind of a perfectionist you think you are, you will write things that will have to be cut. Things that don't serve the story. Like in your initial writing, because, as a perfectionist, you think you've already got it all figured out, which most students coming into a novel writing class think they already know where they're going. They already think they have all of the information they need, much like I was when I first started my master's courses. Maybe that's how I know how it is. You might be feeling. So we already think we've already got it all together. There's not much else I can learn, but let's just give it a chance. We'll see where it goes, right? And then you find out that you've got to cut, 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 cut. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. And you're like, the heck it doesn't. And then you get mad and you spend a lot of time wasting emotion rather than understanding the story is what's at stake. And you need to overwrite so that you can get to the meat. But we don't get to the meat until we're in the editing stages. So that's a conversation for another day. At this point in time, we are just in service of telling the story, just getting it out there, building the characters, just saying all the things. So go well over that 80,000 mark if you think you're serious about writing a novel. I've hit 110,000 before and then pared it down to 90, 95. Absolutely. My novel, The American Queen, I don't remember how many words it is right off the bat, but it's over 150,000, I believe. I could be wrong. Let's don't fully quote me on that. I could pull up the manuscript and look. I'm just not going to right at the moment. But short stories don't need the same character buildup as novels do. Like I told you with The Story of an Hour, like she just does not have character buildup in there at all, but it's not necessary because that story is about shock value. The message gets spread by the shock value. Like you get to the end of that story and you go, what? And that's the part people, women, especially when that story first came out, they talked about. That shock value. If it didn't have the shock value, it wouldn't have gotten talked about. And it wouldn't have ended up becoming a part of the birth of the feminist movement. Very interesting to read about the history of The Story of an Hour by Kate Chopin and its effects on society. Just saying. Now, let's talk about body language. Our characters need body language. This is getting a lot longer than I wanted it to. It might be ambitious of me to try to squeeze all of this into one video. But our characters need to have body language. We all have it. So should our characters. By the way, that's me and my grandpa. So super cute. I could turn my face like that. Does this still look like me? It is me. All right. Characters must stand out. So how can we help them do that? How they dress, how they speak, how they carry themselves, their swagger matters 100%. So in real life, this is part of the presentation that I gave for the Tulsa Night Writers Writing Conference back in October. They asked me to come and speak to authors about writing body language into their characters. And so I shared a lot of the information that I use in my Comp 2 classes. So I'm just going to run through this, give you the information. We're going to kind of do it in a dry cut and run way, but I want you, with all of the information I'm going to be giving to you, to be thinking about how you can add some of these items to your characters as you're telling them, as you're giving them a meal to eat with other characters, or as you're having them walk down the road with other characters, or whatever it is that you're having them do. They need to be reacting to one another with body language. So here's some facts for you. 93% of communication is nonverbal. And in ignorance of this, humanity focuses on spoken words, which account for only 7% of communication. So it is vitally important to a successful future to study and understand nonverbal communication. I mean, do it or don't, it's your choice, right? But you need to understand the breakdown here. So 93% of communication is nonverbal. And in that number, that 93%, 38% is your tone, character's tone, but tone, and 55% is body language. These are essential numbers to know and understand. Only 7% is the words that your characters speak. So 93% should be in their arm movements, in their facial expressions, and how they interact with another character. How, do they touch them on the arm? Like, what are the things that they're doing? Do they bow when this character enters the room? Do they step into the shadow when this other character comes close? Like, what is it that they're doing that the reader can observe? Very important to think about that. So let's talk tone. The pitch, the character's pitch, and this applies to yourself as well. So any of this information is directed at you also. Your pitch is how high or how low your voice can fluctuate. An overly high-pitched voice can suggest immaturity and defensiveness. And if you end a sentence using a higher pitch, that can sound more like a question instead of an affirmative statement, which will only leave your partner feeling confused. Now, let me read that again, but I'll use the higher pitch at the end of the sentence. How about we do that for the whole paragraph, because that won't be annoying. Your pitch is how high or how low your voice can fluctuate. An overly high-pitched voice can suggest immaturity and defensiveness. And if you end a sentence using a higher pitch, that can sound more like a question instead of an affirmative statement, which will only leave your partner feeling confused. It's hard for me to do. It's not a natural speech pattern of mine. However, unfortunately, it is a natural speech pattern of many, many young women, especially in our world today, and it shows a lack of confidence. And so this is something that we can consider. Maybe your character is a young character and they are annoying another character because every time they end a sentence, the pitch goes up, and this character finally loses it and says, "Are you done asking questions?" And the other character says, "What do you mean? I'm not asking questions." You can add depth to your stories with these type of things. But your pitch is a powerful part of tone of voice and communication because it helps you cut through noise. When you're needing to make professional impression or drive in a point, a low pitch can make you seem more authoritative and serious, even if what you're actually saying isn't profound. Consequently, your tone of voice can have the opposite effect. See, I can't even do it right. Can have the opposite effect. If you're constantly at a high pitch, others might assume you're unsure about what you want to convey. This can lead to a sense of untrustworthiness that can make it harder to get what you want. So it could be that a character's struggling in this area, and that could be very interesting. It can add that depth. Pace. How quickly or slowly do you speak when you or your partner are in the middle of an argument, during a presentation at work? In addition to fine-tuning your talking tone, you might also be mindful of your pace. When you slow down, you can help your audience understand what you're saying, and they will be better able to absorb your message. However, speaking too slowly can be misconstrued as demeaning and offensive. To really get your message across, focus on articulating and conveying your message as clearly as possible by speaking at a steady, even pace. A good rule of thumb, especially if you're speaking in front of an audience, is to speak at half the speed you normally talk. This helps to make sure your tone of voice is clear enough so everyone in the audience can understand. A steady and even pace is powerful because it cultivates focus. And so how we can work this into our characters is you have a character that talks really, really fast. Well, the question for another character might be like, why? Where are you going? Where's the fire? What's the rush? And then you have another character that talks excessively slow to the point that it's an annoyance to others. You can let pace drive the narrative as well. So that's something to keep in mind. How your characters speak is important. It's just as important as what they say. Probably more important than what they say. Now, volume. This goes without saying. Yelling at your partner will backfire, either by causing an argument or making them retreat from the conversation entirely. This is often how tone of voice affects relationships negatively, but it also applies to conversations with colleagues, family, and anyone else you encounter. Speaking too loudly makes you seem aggressive and insensitive. And instead of raising your voice, if you want to emphasize something, slow the pace of your words, pause to highlight major points, or to give your audience time to take in your point. So this is another aspect of tone that you can give to your characters. They could be loud talkers or they could be soft talkers, where another character has to lean in closely just to be able to hear what the old woman is saying, right? So that's another layer added to tone of voice that you could be thinking about and considering. Then we also have timbre. And this is the emotional quality of your tone of voice and communication, the attitude that you bring to what you say. Your audience will use this to build their understanding of what you are saying. Practice managing your voice and taking note of how you sound. Do you sound frustrated, rushed, happy, sad? This will help you become more aware of the way that your attitude is filtered through the inflections of your voice. Emotionally charged words set you apart. One of the most powerful ways to cultivate a powerful tone of voice is to shift your mindset to your heart and let your message shine through your words. Your tone of voice is powerful because it projects who you are as a person, and the same can be true of our characters. What is the emotional quality of their voice? You can add that with your descriptive language. What is the pace? What is the volume? What is the pitch of characters' voices? Something to think about. Now let's talk about nonverbal communication. Ooh, look at that hottie on the screen. He was in the Comp 2 PowerPoint and I just kind of left him there. That's my husband. So anyway, moving on. At the root of body language is anxiety. When people lie or overwhelmed, face hardship or conflict, they feel stress. And adrenaline floods the body, the heart beats faster, muscles tense, blood vessels dilate, pupils shrink, and breathing comes faster. It is a physiological reaction. So we have physiological reactions to the stresses around us, and our bodies react. And most of the time, people are not trained to watch their own body language or pay attention to how they're coming across, to the fact that their body language is leaking out, rushing out, flowing out, and they don't even know. Most people aren't aware. And so it becomes a great marker for our characters. Show their actions, show how they react to one another. And here's some different ideas, things that you can do. Open palms indicate the person is relaxed and comfortable. Here I am, I have nothing to hide. This is a trust me gesture. Palms down. This is the way it is, and this is how it's going to be. This demonstrates control. Then we have rubbing hands on the outside. That's the expectancy rub, like you're waiting on something to happen, right? And then rubbing hands on the inside. This is comfort. You're feeling nervous because see what's happening is all these nerve endings are tingling in here when you have anxiety or you're nervous about something. And so we rub on the inside of the hands. Steepling. This is something you see certain politicians do frequently. This is, I'm smarter than you. I'm in control. I'm in power. Anytime anybody's drumming, right, or tapping, that is, I'm bored. That's not a good sign. You can give that to your characters. Handshakes. Handshakes are so important. There's a whole language to handshakes. I don't remember if the next slide is about handshakes or not. It's not. I took it out. But if your character is trying to get the upper hand, you want to mention how they came in for the handshake with their palm down. That's called having the upper hand. You're automatically putting the other person into a subservient hand gesture. So hopefully you can see me in the little video because I'm doing this. So the handshake goes like this, and you have the upper hand, and that's a power play. All right. Now it's possible if that happens and you are the person that's been put into submission, you can take your other hand and put it on their shoulder or their upper arm, and you can take some of the power back. But there's a whole language to handshakes, and you can look that up and read about that for yourself. But if that's an element you want to add into your stories, maybe you've got some power players in your stories, you're going to want them to interact with other characters using handshakes. Okay, don't leave that out because those are major power player items. Hands in pockets. If you got a character that's constantly got their hands in their pockets, this is someone who's not trustworthy, someone who's hiding something, someone who's closed off. You can intentionally have that character keep putting their hands in their pockets. In The Man Who Loved Flowers by Stephen King, it's a wonderful short story. The character puts his hand in his pocket, and at that point, you go, what you doing? What you got in there? And all it says is he touched the something in there again. And then he returns to his walk, and you go, what are you hiding? Oh, what's in your pocket? And I'm not going to tell you because you should read it. Crossed arms is get out of my space. So you can have a character who's crossing their arms while they're listening to someone else talk. It's a very strong indication that they don't believe a word that's coming out of your mouth, right? It could be a comfort gesture, but most likely it is a defensive gesture. The chop, it's my way or the highway. This is what you need to do and do it the way I say, and blah. That's a parent type of thing. Barack Obama used to do that as well. Hands on hips. Don't mess with me. We try to take up more room, especially women, when they're upset, will put their hands on their hips. And so if you've got a female character who's really angry, you're going to want to mention that her hands were on her hips, right? And she stood up straight and tall next to him, and then she put her finger in his face while her left hand stayed on her hip, right? Like those are regular, normal gestures that we subconsciously understand. And so you give those to your characters to make them real. Hands behind the back, you don't intimidate me. Expose the rest of the entire body without fear of attack. This is confidence. Without a smile, it can mean don't come any closer. So it could be a defensive warning. Don't come any closer. And you can do that with just the body. The fig leaf, that's when we have our hands clasped together in front of our nether regions, as Chuck Wendig would say. That is an I'm vulnerable. You are protecting what's essential. And so that's called the fig leaf. Isn't that interesting? So funny. So you can have a character, if they're feeling vulnerable, you can have them cross their hands down there in front of that area. Yeah, however you want to word that. And also, with the vulnerable feeling, you could have their legs draw together, their ankles are touching, their knees are touching. Anytime legs are drawn together or legs are crossed, you've got a person feeling uncomfortable or feeling vulnerable, feeling shy. It's really interesting, especially when you pair the arms and the feet together and the face. You draw the whole picture and then you go, oh, I see how you're feeling there. Measurement gestures, characters probably always going to be lying. So your measurement gestures can be over exaggerated, of course. That's a good indicator that someone's lying. You don't even have to say they're lying. You just make sure that the gestures are overly large. And people are going to understand that without you having to spell it out for them. Gesture blocks. Oh, one of my biggest pet peeves is when I walk into a classroom where I'm teaching and someone has put the podium up on the table. In our classroom, there is a podium that you can put up on the table. And every time I come in and it's up, I take it right back down because guess what? I'm not afraid of you and I'm not putting anything in between us. As a matter of fact, I'm going to come around the table and I'm going to stand on the other side and I'm going to have an open front because I have nothing to hide. Like, I'm not intimidated. I'm not afraid. I want you to feel comfortable with me. And so we're going to have an open exchange. A gesture block is when the character or a real person puts something in between themselves and the people they're talking to. This is someone who's uncomfortable. For whatever reason they're uncomfortable, they make sure to put something in between them. It could even be like a little fancy fan. But you're blocking your face. You're covering something up because you don't want to fully be seen. They could have a mask hidden under the seat in their car and they see a certain person coming. And so they get it out and they throw it on real quick because they don't want to be seen or recognized. See, these are body language things that we can do that if you show it happening, you don't have to tell that it happened. Pretty cool stuff. Hand to the neck means I'm uncomfortable. Now, legs. If someone is standing with their legs shoulder width apart, they are comfortable. If the legs go wider than shoulder width, this is someone who's confident and grounded in position to show they are in control. This is someone who's just gotten really confident, or perhaps maybe they've gotten a little bit out of control. So it says they're in control, but I've seen people widen too far who are a little out of control as well. But shoulder width is good. That's comfort. When their legs go wider, keep an eye out. What's happening? This person's in protect mode, potentially fight or flight. And if they pull their legs together, if, like I said, if their ankles touch in any way, whether crossed or just pulled together, this is someone who's uncomfortable. This is someone who feels shy, and this can happen to your characters as well. Okay. So body angling. This is when someone turns away from you. Let's say you're talking to someone and you realize that your foot has turned and is facing the complete opposite direction, like it's headed toward the left and not facing forward anymore. What your body is saying to the person you're talking to is, I'm not listening anymore. I'm done listening. I just look like I'm listening, but I'm not. And the thing about it is body language leaks to the feet because we might think to control our face and we might think to control our hands, but we're not going to think about our feet. And so neither will your characters. And so if their foot's turning away in the midst of that conversation, they're giving off an indicator that they're done. They want to go where the food is. They want to go where their phone is. They want to go over there. So that's something to pay attention to. The direction of the feet, I said that. Leaning in or leaning away, that's a huge one. If you're really interested in something someone's saying, you're going to lean in towards them. If you're not interested, you're going to pull away, right? And so that's just a basic trait and body language that we can give to characters. Sitting in a sprinting position basically just means you're ready to haul. Now, here's the look of a lie. And I'll just fly through this real quick, or you can pause. How about if you want this information, just pause the screen and you can see the different aspects of what a lie can look like. Now, that's a lot of different aspects of what a lie can look like. But basically, it's anything that's not your norm. Anything that's outside of your norm is what your body's going to do when you're lying. Now, for me, it's real easy because I have rosacea. And so if I'm fibbing, blood vessels in my face are going to be popping because that's a physiological reaction to the lie, which causes anxiety. And so my face turns bright red while I'm telling a story. I can't get away with it. So I got to be a truth teller. But anything that's against their normal behavior set could be indicative of a lie. It doesn't mean they are lying. It means it's indicative of a lie. So don't go around accusing people. And then don't underestimate the value of a smile. Your characters need to smile. Don't forget to mention smiles, whether they're evil smiles or sardonic smiles or genuine smiles or fake smiles or whatever type of smile. Use those as part of body language because we understand them, right? Smiles are part of our lives. A genuine smile wrinkles the eyes, remember that. A fake smile has no other facial movement. Emotions show on faces. Your face is capable of making 3,500 different facial expressions. 7 are universal. This research was done by Dr. Paul Ekman, who's one of the leading psychologists in the field of body language in the world, and he has done global research. He's a fascinating man to read about. The 7 that are universal are happiness, sadness, contempt, disgust, surprise, anger, and fear. No matter if you live in Papua New Guinea in a primitive village, or you live in Japan in the busiest city, or you live in the English countryside, or you live in Arizona, we all show happiness, sadness, contempt, disgust, anger, surprise, and fear in the same way. The other 3,493 facial expressions are based on culture. Wow. If you don't believe me, look it up, read about it for yourself. It's a little more than mind-blowing. So remember, body language leaks through the feet, and we don't often think about our feet. So have your characters watching what the feet do. Now, in the classroom, I was going to put this picture up and ask you to tell me what's hiding behind these eyes. What do you see? Can you read her face? Can you surmise what might be happening there? What kind of story might you tell about this woman? That's my grandmother. Her name is Lillian Louise. Widget, Snare. She grew up in Kansas and she was wealthy. And she met a man named Perry Snare and she fell in love and she wanted to marry him, but her family didn't approve because her family was wealthy and Perry Snare had next to nothing. John, no, Lester, I'm telling you the story wrong. My grandpa's name is Lester. See, I never met him. Perry's my uncle. I met him. But she met Lester, and her family did not want her to marry Lester. Absolutely not. But she did anyway. And they moved to a very small town in Kansas, and she proceeded to have baby after baby after baby after baby after baby. She ended up with 7 children. They were very poor, and she struggled in ways that she had never struggled before in her life. And Lester had really bad allergies. He was a very sick man. He was extremely skinny because he was sick. And the doctor told him he needed to move to a dry climate. And so they up and moved their family to Albuquerque, New Mexico. And that's where my mama grew up. My mama was their youngest. She was the baby. She came along 7 years after the last one. Her siblings were all much older than her. So she grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So there's a whole lot more to the story, but that's just a little bit. But what kind of stories could be told there? Without any of that knowledge, could you just make something up by looking at her eyes? My grandmother's eyes break my heart. I see a sadness there. Ooh, ooh, that gets me. I have another picture of her right here. I have their wedding picture right here. I don't want to take it off the wall because I won't be able to get it back on. But what kind of stories can you tell about a character just from looking at a picture, studying it long enough? What kinds of things can you make up about them? Now, I told you her real story, but I would be curious to know where all of your minds went. So I wish we could have had that conversation in the classroom. And maybe we will on Thursday, even though you know the real thing now. Probably should have waited. But yeah, that's my grandma. She died when I was 5. Grandpa died the year before I was born, and she died when I was 5. Pretty lady. But those eyes, what lies behind the eyes? Emotions leak through our faces. So they need to leak through your characters as well. Now let's talk villains. Dun dun dun. So you need to be fully reading Echoes of the Criminal Mind right now. That's the focus. That's the homework. The real, like thick homework. We're also going to be creating a villain, but I want you to make your way through this book. It is not a hard read. Like sit down, you'll fly through it because it's freaky once you start reading the different characteristics of people. If you're anything like me, you're going to be at Walmart looking around you going, oh my gosh, is it you? But so make your way through this book. It's excellent. I'm not going to read through all of this information here in the PowerPoint because I have kept you for a very long time. But this has the purpose and the audience for this book and the author's background. Now, the author is Merle Davenport, and I do know Merle. He is the president of the Tulsa Night Riders, but beyond that, he is a teacher at, I don't remember which prison, but he has been teaching in prisons for over 25 years. He teaches college success classes, he's taught English classes, and he's interacting with inmates on a daily basis. And so this book is the result of not only his education, he has a master's in psychology. He almost had a doctorate in education, but he decided along the way to wait on that. But he draws from that, but his 25 years of experience working with criminals to create this book. Incredible resource for us. So there's a focus on criminal psychology, of course, because that's what his educational background is. And then practical framework for writers, which is very cool. I love this aspect of the book that he tells us straight up, how do you apply this information in your stories? Boom, do this. Here's a checklist. It also contains personal stories and examples. And some of these personal stories that he shares from the inmates that he has encountered over the years, some of them were terrifying. Some of them were heartbreaking. Like these people literally, their minds don't function like ours do. And it's insightful for us if we're truly wanting to be able to write a horrific criminal or a horrific crime, but still make the character of the criminal someone that you're wrestling with. Do I like them? Do I not? Because these are real people, but some of them have really bad traits. Mm. And Merle lays all that out for us. So, beyond crime, motivations, and nuance, excellent. Oh, what did I just do? I opened something up. Okay. And then enhancing narrative depth. So, the book's goal is to help writers deepen character development, enrich conflict, and heighten psychological realism in storytelling by understanding the echoes or the residual patterns of the criminal mindset. Dun, dun, dun. Highly recommend. Can't wait to be able to discuss this in class. So, I'm going to move past that. Here are the 10 common patterns of criminal thinking that you will encounter in this book. So, number one, immediate gratification. Number two, claims of innocence. Three, they're egocentric. Four, thrill seeking. Five, demands respect. Six, simmering anger. Seven, bullying. Eight, personal relationships. Nine, no remorse. 10, above the law. Merle goes into an explanation of each one of these, gives you examples of each one of these, and then tells you how to build them into your characters with a checklist format. Part three, 3 ways common thought patterns of criminals are altered. Talks about the influence of drugs, the influence of mental illness, and the influence of prison. So that is an interesting component that you can add to characters. Maybe you have a character with a drug problem, kind of like Sherlock Holmes. Brilliant detective, genius detective, addicted to heroin. What are you going to do? People have flaws. So, mental illness, you could write mental illness into your story because that's a lot more prevalent than we want to admit in our real life world. People have been in prison. It has had an influence on them, and they're out here in the big wide world trying to do well, trying to do right, and it's hard for them. Easier to live in prison once you've gotten used to it than it is to be out. And that's a sad fact of life. And you'll read about that in Merle's book. Character building. So creating a villain. He's going to spend some time telling us how to create a villain, and that's where we're going to focus. We're going to write a villain. But here's the review that I wrote after I read his book. This book scared me so much that not only did I decide staying home most of the time sounded like a mighty fine idea, but also it is so effectively shocking that I'm incorporating it into the curriculum for the novel writing class I teach. Students and writers need to write authentic characters, especially villains. And who better to teach about the mind of a criminal outside of an actual criminal than Merle Davenport, who holds a Master's of Education and has taught GED and reentry classes behind prison walls for 25 years. It's a Master's of Psychology. He is also the president of the Tulsa Night Riders. This book is organized with not only personal experiences from his many years teaching prisoners, but also explanations of basic and shocking characteristics of criminals and how to incorporate these characteristics into villains authentically. The last 2 chapters have charts for writers to use in building and assessing their villains with examples of what that looks like. This book is brilliant, Merle's magnum opus. I'm grateful that he wrote it, that I can use it to inspire writers to plumb the depths of character development, and even grateful that the words in it have me paying more attention in public as I go about my normal life. Thank you, Merle. So that's the review I wrote after I read the book. Here is the interview. I'm not going to play this right now, but here is the interview of Merle that I conducted. He's also using this for some of his advertising purposes for the book, but that is on YouTube. You can look it up on my YouTube channel, or you can click the link here in the PowerPoint. I think I've also given it to you elsewhere on the Blackboard. If you want to actually listen to Merle talk about this, you can watch that. Oh, now, let me move this. Characters must be authentic. They must be relatable. They must be unexpected. They must be quirky but believable. Characters must be real people. So take time with them and get to know them. All right, so that's the end of that PowerPoint. So what we want to do, if we're together on Thursday, you're going to bring in 4 copies of Tell Me About Your Uncle for Writer's Workshop. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to, as a large group, share what we gathered, because these are not written by us. They're anonymous. We can read them out loud. We can laugh about them. We can talk about what are genius characteristics to take and put into your story. You can say, hey, can I use that? And then I want us to talk about and figure out some amazing names for these characters. And we're just going to have some fun with it. It's a good time. All right. And then we'll begin talking more about the writing assignment for this weekend. So what's due, or you'll be doing a final draft for homework of Tell Me About Your Uncle after the peer review. And then you need to be reading that book. There is a quiz on the book. I think I may not have gotten it written. If it's not there, don't do it. But I think I got it written. Honestly, I don't know right now. And then what we have as our writing assignment is create a villain, 500 to 1,000 words. If you need to go over that a little bit, I'm not going to get mad at you. Okay. So wink, wink on that one, right? So here is creating a villain, our writing assignment. So in Echoes of the Criminal Mind, Merle Davenport explains that criminals and villains rarely see themselves as evil. Instead, they rely on consistent thinking patterns that help them justify harm, avoid responsibility, and maintain a positive self-image. In this assignment, you will create an original fiction villain whose actions are shaped by these criminal thinking patterns. Your goal is to show what criminal thinking looks like from the inside through story, not explanation. This is a creative writing assignment grounded in psychological realism. Your task: write a short piece of fiction that features an original villain character. Your villain must clearly demonstrate at least 4 criminal thinking traits described in Echoes of the Criminal Mind. You should not summarize or explain Davenport's ideas in the story. Instead, you will embed those ideas into the character's thoughts, dialogue, and choices, allowing the reader to infer the mindset. So, requirements: your villain must be an original character. They believe they are justified, reasonable, or necessary. They need to have clear sense of motivation or purpose and use flawed but consistent logic to explain their behavior. Those are traits from Merle's book. Your villain does not need to commit violence on the page, but their mindset must be unmistakable. Number 2, criminal thinking traits shown, not named. Your story must demonstrate at least 4 criminal thinking traits from Davenport's text. Examples include, but are not limited to, blaming others for their actions, feeling entitled to special treatment, viewing themselves as the real villain, or the real victim, believing rules apply to everyone else but them, prioritizing short-term satisfaction over long-term consequences, showing selective or absent empathy, and seeking power, dominance, or control. So again, don't name those traits in the story, but show these behaviors through monologue, dialogue, justifications, rationalizations, or how the villain interprets other people's actions. Number 3, point of view. Choose a point of view that reveals the villain's thinking. First person is great. Close third person is fine. Confession, interview, diary, letter format, whatever you choose. Your reader should understand how the villain thinks, even if the villain never admits wrongdoing. Number 4, setting and conflict. Your story must include a clear setting, physical, social, or psychological, a moment of tension, choice, or confrontation, some form of consequence, realization, or escalation by the end. And the story does not need a moral resolution. This is not a whole story. We're just building a character. We're doing a scene with a character, if you will. Required author's note. This is not included in the word count. So after your story, include a 150 to 250 word author's note in which you identify the 4 criminal thinking traits and explain where each appears in the story and reference specific moments, scenes, or lines. This is the only place where you should explicitly use Davenport's terminologies. Okay, this is not a plot summary, a cartoonish evil for evil's sake villain, a moral lecture, a psychological diagnosis, or a retelling of Davenport's book. So, how you will be evaluated. We don't have to read through all that, but the final thought. The most unsettling villains are not the ones who know they are evil, but the ones who believe they are right. This assignment asks you to explore that mindset and translate theory into story. Write boldly, write thoughtfully, make us uncomfortable in the best way. Have an effective use of Davenport's criminal thinking concepts, depth and credibility of the villain's mindset, show, don't tell, narrative clarity and tension, original and control of language, originality, thoughtfulness and clarity in the author's note. So exciting. And then we'll do workshop on these pieces in the following week. Now, something I do want to say is as we workshop our pieces and you create your final copies, which you do turn in to me, I want you to begin a side document where you're also keeping your workshopped pieces as if they're going into a book. So keep track of everything that you write. We're going to have basically a journal of all of our writing from the semester. So have a separate document, have the actual writing piece, the final draft once you've finished it, but then take that also and put it into this workshop pieces portfolio that we will be also creating and turning in at the end of the semester. So please do that for yourself. And I suggest, here's a suggestion to you. Now you can do this or not do this. This is up to you. I suggest that you create a WordPress blog, a Substack, a LinkedIn, a Wattpad, Inkit, Royal Road, Archive of Our Own, Fiction Press, Medium, Scribophile, Blogger, Critique Circle, etc. Not all of these, but certainly at least one. Start putting your edited pieces out into the world. Connect with classmates on these sites, discuss amongst yourselves, get feedback, get noticed, write in the open, don't hide. Perhaps with some of these pieces that we write, you might find the Tulsa Review is an interesting place to submit. You might also discover that you want to submit to some contests in the area, or you could go on the Oklahoma Writers Federation and look for contests because they're always having things of that nature. But don't let yourself stop yourself from going ahead and start putting some of your writing out there. And never take feedback personally, ever. But connect with each other. Find an online space that you like and begin putting your writing out there. I have a WordPress. I love my WordPress blog. I write on it from time to time. Sometimes I really attack it hard. I have a book called Burn After Writing, and sometimes when I just feel like writing and I don't know what to write, I will get out my Burn After Writing book and I go on WordPress and I answer one of the questions. Honestly, I make myself answer it honestly, like blunt and raw. And that's a lot of fun. But start putting your writing out there. Let people be finding it and encountering it. All right. That's my challenge to you. But I know that's quite a bit. If you have any questions, please, please contact me, reach out, ask. I don't know that we will be in the classroom together on Thursday. Like I said, if we are, we're going to spend some time having a good time with the tell me about your uncle pieces. But then we can also get a head start on creating our villains as well, if we decide that we have a little bit of extra time. But if we're not in the classroom, you can just go ahead and get a jump start on all of this information. I mean, you can do that now. But anyway, I hope this was fun. I had a good time. I love talking about writing and characters and all the things. So I'm going to let you go, but stay safe out there and be warm.